I've never done things by the books, but this was unusual even for me. I'd been hired by a podcast, some group of pencil pushers who called themselves Planet Money. These guys heard people were going to need more ventilators, but that the answer to making new ones, maybe hundreds of thousands of them, was in the middle of a tangled web. But I think I've finally wriggled free and figured it out. You see, it all started with this one guy. Chris Keipel, he said his name was. And Chris, well, he was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Chris runs this little company in Seattle called Ventec. They make ventilator systems, and he'd been getting call after call after call. He had the governor's office of Washington breathing down his neck. The U.S. needs ventilators, and they needed them yesterday. What's it gonna take to make them? Chris says, it's really complicated, but I swear, we're on it. You see, to put one of these things together, Chris and his people gotta have 700 parts, and those 700 parts gotta come from suppliers who are spread out all over the world. Then those parts gotta get to Washington to be put together. Meanwhile, 1,400 miles away in Minneapolis, Todd Olson has a problem of his own. Todd is the CEO of Twin City Die Castings, and they make a lot of things, but mostly they make car parts. And car production had just come to a screeching halt, so he was sweating. But Todd was about to catch a break. The president of Twin City busts in and says, Todd, we've got a ventilator company on the horn who wants to work with us. So Todd picks it up. Todd, it's Chris over at Ventec. We're in a bind over here, but we think you can help. Hit me, Todd says. You see, Chris understands that Todd makes pistons, and pistons are one of those 700 parts Ventec uses in their machines. So Chris says we'd like to order 150 pistons a month, and they gotta be small, and I mean small. Small enough to fit in the palm of your hand. So Todd says, okay, I bet we can do that. 150 a month, you said? And they start making plans. But you see, that doesn't solve the problem. Sure, Todd can make the pistons, but Chris and the good people over at Ventec, they can only crank out about 200 ventilators a month. And that wasn't gonna cut it. No way, no how. They were trying to make a lot more. That's when a big player came onto the scene. General Motors, baby. The big GM. GM gets connected with Ventec and they say, we heard you're making a few ventilators, and we want to help. And boy, could they help. Ventec tells GM, on a good day, on our best day really, with the factory maxed out, everyone working 24/7, we can only make about 1,000 of these a week. And GM says, not only can we get you to 1,000 a week, we're going to help you make way more than that. We're a car company, sure, but what we really are is a gigantic global supply chain. And on a Saturday morning, GM wakes up their own team and they all hit the phones hard. GM gets Todd over at Twin City back on the line and says, 150 pistons is fine, but how about 20,000 a month? Todd says, well, let me talk to my guy and see what we can do. So Todd calls his most trusted mold maker in Michigan. Together, they and every single engineer between the two companies worked round the clock. They crammed months' worth of man-hours into a single weekend. Made the mold. Todd took that mold and started making the pistons. The pistons were just one part, but Ventec and GM, together they found hundreds of Todd Olsons out there. They sourced enough of each and every one of those 700 parts to make tens of thousands of ventilators a month. By June 1st, more than 6,000 ventilators will be available, 30,000 by the end of August. By their bootstraps, blood, sweat, and tears, these people made it happen. You see, I like it when all the pieces of the puzzle fit, and this was one of those times.